Great to be back again with Jeff to continue our discussion on testing, penetration testing. And this time around, we're going to talk about autonomous testing. And for some of you who have not heard this word autonomous penetration testing, it's a good opportunity to hear firsthand from Jeff as to what autonomous testing is and how it would benefit the organization. Welcome back, Jeff.
Thank you, Sujit. Warm welcome again to all your viewers. So today we'll cover what is manual and what is autonomous or automated pen testing, right? So as a manual pen tester, you'd fire up Kali Linux or your favorite distribution of like Backtrack or so on, which contains all your favorite hacking tools, and you'd manually execute like an Nmap scan or any of these other nifty tools that are available for pen testing, right? So you would manually open it up, you would type in all the commands, and then you would patiently wait for the results to load up. Sometimes it might take several hours, and or you would just leave it to run, and you'll come back later to see the results, right? So that is the traditional manual pen testing. It works well, but it's highly time consuming. And once you start doing it, you have to dedicate a lot of time to monitoring whether it's going on properly, and there will be a lot of false positives, and you have to sift through all of them. It is highly effective, but it takes a lot of resources. Now, the industry has evolved, and with the advent of cloud, we have a lot of new cool tooling available in the market today that would be autonomous pen testing. And in autonomous pen testing, you have highly skilled pen testers who have codified their knowledge into platforms, right? And these platforms would emulate an actual attacker, and whatever scans that you normally do, like a reconnaissance scan using Nmap, or any of these other compromises that you need to do, all that is built into the platform, right? So as a security professional, you just have to log into the tool and say, go attack this particular IP address or a list of IP ranges. And then the tool will automatically go and, based on the scan profile, execute a lot of tests. And finally, it will give you an output, right? That tells you what the weaknesses are. So it enables you to attack at scale, right? Whereas manual pen testing takes a lot of resources and you can only execute so much, right? Because there are human limits to what we can do. And that is the key value that modern pen testing through autonomous systems that will be acquired. Then you have the zero trust, right? Which is like a big buzzword today in security. But how do you actually check whether your defenses are meeting the zero trust standards? So these systems can be set to test your environment every other week or even every day, depending on how much bandwidth you have. And it tells you if there are any key findings in your zero trust implementation. Like, for example, you've configured your firewall wrongly in a location, and it enables a person to come from a regular local area network into your data center. That will be highlighted immediately, and it gives you constant visibility into whether your zero trust is being performed correctly or not. That's a key value add. Then you have the end day response, right? So we have the 0 days, then we have the end days. 0 days is when there is no patch available and people are unaware of it. End day is when you are aware of it, but still there is no patch available, right? So an example would be Log4j, where it was announced that there is an issue, but we didn't have a patch for a considerable amount of time. So in that period, if you need to monitor your entire environment to see how much am I impacted from a Log4j perspective, that would be an end day response, right? That the tooling would help you with. Then you have a lot of security investments. You have your SIEM, like security incident and event management system. Then you have like multiple other security tools. How are these tools working, right? You have put a lot of money, Is it really worth what we paid for? So this pen testing tool would tell you, right? And whether it's worth is one thing, have you configured it correctly is the second part, right? So it might be worth, but if you configure it incorrectly, then it's not meeting its worth. So that fine tuning aspect you will get. Then you have a lot of partners, and there is a supply chain involved in your environment where you're relying on multiple other third parties to help you in your mission, right? So if they get compromised, you in turn will get hit. So you can run these scans even against your partners to see if they have any issues, and you can even proactively tell them that they need to fix something. And overall, we have to democratize access to security testing, right? So we have people who want to break into cybersecurity, and rather than putting too many barriers at them, saying you need to be skilled at pen testing for so many years, only then you'll get a role. Whereas these tools bring down that barrier, right? You can even get a person fresh out of college to use these tools, and then they can be responsible for running the tests, and somebody senior up can help mold that new joiner to learn. At the same time, all these platforms give you a zero false positive guarantee, right? If it is unable to get in, it will not even show you the finding. So it reduces your overall noise as well. And it also shows you the attack paths, right? How it was able to use a low value vulnerability and use it to break into the domain or own your other environments. That's one of the key value that you will get. And context is the king of cybersecurity, right? So you need to know whether an asset is internet facing, or is it just a QA environment and nothing valuable is there on it. So that value you can program into these tools saying these assets are high value. So the risk value that's being shown to you will be calculated accordingly, right? So, and it'll also tell you, you have your vulnerability scanning systems, which tell you there are critical, high, medium, and low vulnerabilities. You'll traditionally go only for the critical and high. But what if one of those low vulnerabilities are lying out there that is exploitable? So it would use that exploitable finding to get to a very high value crown jewel asset, and that visibility you will get as a part of automated pen testing. So these are the key value that you will get. And annual pen tests don't cut it anymore, right? So you have to be constantly on the lookout to see what's failing. And the more often you do it, it's good for the organization. And the external pen test is good to validate the work that you're doing. But since it's only once in a year, having this automated pen testing will help you to get more return on investment. At the same time, you get more assurance and you can sleep better at night.
Absolutely. Jeff, what you brought out in this short time is that identifying the vulnerability real quick time is the secret of success. That's how I would put it, right? Before somebody else finds it, you find it. So the traditional way of doing it manually, and usually it happens in most organizations, it's an annual exercise because somebody said it has to be done. But we all know that vulnerabilities are found every minute. Like you spoke about end day and 0 day. Right? Our challenge is between these two. How quickly do we uncover? Is there anything we can do to minimize the blast radius? Or do we, live with it? That's a call we're going to take. But then the other thing which you also highlighted was the focus is most of the time on critical and high. A low, medium, and sometimes even informational alerts or, the discovered items may give you so much of insights which you could go in and remediate. Right. So sometimes that is overlooked in several organizations. And what I gained in this short discussion with you, this autonomous testing can be used as continuous monitoring, right? You continuously monitor. And let's say if you have an in-house team which is continuously developing new products and services, so you can, test on the go prior to promoting it to production and even after promoting it to the production. So you have that internal team which can test this for you, right? So then you can use an external um, expert to come in and validate maybe once a year to test whether our processes are in line with global best practices and whether our policies are aligned to what we are doing. All that can be verified by these experts who can do this once a year. But what you and I are saying here is that this has to be a continuous process. And the other highlight in your conversation is that I found is bringing in efficiency, meaning using minimal resources, getting the optimal return out of it. And the other thing which you also highlighted was consistency. Now, when you do manual testing, it is very much dependent on that individual's expertise. And many a times we forget about the fatigue, which probably sets in, and the person may kind of lose out on his concentration. So that probably will be dropped off in between. So that's a risk which we carry. But when you do autonomous, tool dependent, these cool tools which you're referring to, it can actually take on that burden. So which means we not only have consistency, we also have the ability of scaling it up and down. Right? Today, when you go for manual testing, typically they say how many IPs or how many applications. So the budgets are defined based on that. But if you go with this model, you probably have a minimum base investment, but you can cover a large IT asset base. You spoke about cost effectiveness. You also mentioned finding it first before somebody else finds. It reduces the risk, right? Which means your compliance requirement is going to be more robust and more in line with the expectation, because the regulators are becoming much more stringent because they don't want a specific organization's failure to bring the whole industry down. And I think that's where the regulators are more concerned, right? And I think that's not just happening in the West or in the Far East, but I think it is happening across the globe right now. So we are going to see a lot more regulators coming in and specifying specifics as to what exactly these organizations are expected to do. Jeff, I mean, before we wrap up this session, any thoughts in closing which you want to share with the viewers?
The upcoming trend is on continuous threat exposure management. So you have like a wide attack surface today compared to a decade ago, where you had to only secure a perimeter firewall and your DMZ and you're done. But now you have the cloud, you have like third-party providers. So your data is lying around everywhere, right? So it's not enough if you just pen test at your perimeter level. And that difference in mindset is very crucial for us. So that will help us to open up our minds to identifying new attack vectors that we haven't thought of. And some of these automated systems come with years of experience codified, right? So it will help you even learn, right, and de-risk yourself from an auditor risk perspective, right? So as a professional, you have certain limitations based on your cumulative years of experience. But when you have like multiple years of experience aggregated together in a platform, it helps to bring in and streamline the entire process so that you get the most bang for your buck. At the same time, it also tells you how to remediate, right? That's the key value. Very often you will see there's an audit or an assessment happens. They'll give you a very high level guidance because auditors don't want to get too prescriptive because each environment is unique. But these pen testing platforms will tell you, go fix this particular line in the configuration and it will get resolved. And it'll also give you a one-click retest, right? You don't even have to wait for a complete retesting to happen. The moment you run a fix, you quickly check it out. So these are some cool things that you can do, which you couldn't do more than a decade back. And I see a huge value coming up in this segment. And the attackers are not sleeping. we are also not sleeping. So, end of the day, our management needs to get the peace of mind, and this will take us
Absolutely.
one step closer to that part.
Correct. And in closing, Jeff, one specific thing which I would like to highlight, we can see the path. When you see the path, it helps also, it helps you understand how this attack has happened. So remediation becomes much more easier. So with that thought, Jeff, thank you so much for being here again on the second edition of this series. So I look forward to seeing you on the third and the final edition, where we are going to talk about what steps should organization take to implement an autonomous penetration testing program. So with that, thank you so much again. See you on the other side. So
Thanks for having me, Sujit.